Well, welcome back to another episode of the Weekday Saints Podcast, where we look to highlight men and women who are doing amazing work all over our city that oftentimes you might not know is even happening. And today's guest is no exception to that. He's another amazing person who you need to know, Ian Cochran.
Amazing company, amazing character. I want to go visit so that I can feel some of the amazing culture that he speaks of.
And believe it or not, this will be a fascinating episode where we talk about HR.
Who knew?
Who knew? I hope you enjoy this episode. Well, Ian Cochran, thank you so much for making time to be with us today. We're honored to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. Well, awesome. Well, we're going to talk about your work and the cool things you get to do and the ways you get to lead. But before, tell us a little about who Ian is, a family, where you're from. Tell us just about what makes Ian Ian.
Yeah, I am married to my wife, Tysa Cochran, and we just had a little baby girl 4 weeks ago in April. So, yeah, excited about that. And originally from a small town called Bon Aqua, Tennessee. It's near Dixon, near Franklin. So,
How many places do you have to name to tell me where this place is?
at least two, probably more.
Give us that triangle.
Yeah, give it a triangle. Very small town in Middle Tennessee. So originally from there, but moved here to Chattanooga in 2021. So really enjoying it here. For the job is why we moved here, but really enjoying it.
Well, along that line, tell us about what you do for work and where you're at right now. What brought you to Chattanooga?
Yes, I'm a director of human resources and IT at Metalworking Solutions. And so it's a sheet metal fabricator located in Lookout Valley. We got about 100 employees, 3 locations here in Chattanooga. Most of them are at the Lookout Valley location, about 30, and the True Coat location in southern Chattanooga. And then the eastern Chattanooga is about 10 to 15 people. So yeah, doing sheet metal fabrication, whatever customers want. So custom work, 300 customers at any time, just doing different types of custom sheet metal fabrication.
So when little Ian was a little boy, did he dream that he would grow up to be a HR, IT manager director for Metalworking Solutions? Or tell us a little bit about your journey, your path, what led you there?
Yeah, Kid Ian was going to be president, so it didn't work out. But you just kind of try and figure out what you do throughout college. And so I did several internships. I originally thought, I like numbers. I enjoy numbers. I'll be in accounting, be maybe a CFO one day or something like that. And so got into it, did an internship and really hated that. So did not enjoy just accounting and doing taxes. And that was probably doing the worst part of accounting, honestly, doing tax accounting for small businesses. But did that. And then I worked at the Carl Perkins Center in Jackson. That's a child abuse prevention organization, and did some office work there and really enjoyed working with the team and the families and the structure. I did an internship at Habitat for Humanity, enjoyed working with the families there, and I was like, okay, so it's some kind of combination of business and people. And so just kind of looked around, saw an internship at Marvin Windows and Doors here in Tennessee, and started over there and just really loved it. It's a great way to, human resources is a unique position, especially at the right organization, where you can fill a gap between the people and the business. And so you're really developing the culture and trying to make it a great place to work. And so that's really what I do, is try and create a good environment for people, and then kind of mix finding people that have certain strengths and fitting them to the right role so they feel fulfilled, right? And so that's kind of the day in, day out. And so, but it's been a great fit. I'll probably not work in any other type of work other than human resources, that's for sure. But in manufacturing, I've always been in manufacturing. I worked at a couple of the nonprofits as an internship, but the rest of my career has been in manufacturing, and I just like we're producing something, we are working together for a common goal of creating something. And it's this clear objective of, they ordered this, let's make it as efficiently as possible and work together to get it done, and all the people and the things that go along with that. So,
yeah. I mean, manufacturing is one of those industries that we need in our country, but there's things that we use all day long and that we drive by every day that maybe Metalworking Solutions had a part in playing, and it's easy just to miss all that's going in and the hard work that gets put into that. And so how many, you said over 100 employees?
Yeah, I think we have 104 right now.
Wow. So talk to me about some of the challenges and, that you have to kind of deal with and to help the people that work at Metalworking Solutions? What are some of the things that you're having to help step in and support them in on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, probably the biggest challenge is just the tension between. So we're a custom fabricator, right? And so we don't work off contracts that makes the same thing over and over again every month. And so we kind of have a hard time predicting out in the future. And so we're a very people-focused organization, but labor is a very, very high cost as a percentage, right? And so if we can only see a couple months ahead, it's like, okay, how much do we staff? If we staff too much, is everybody going to be standing around and then they don't feel fulfilled and they're bored and right? And so, okay, if we don't staff enough, everybody's going to be working 6 days a week and nobody wants to do that for very long. And so there's like this tension. And so that's part of the role, is trying to fill that. And the biggest piece is, like I said, helping people find what makes them tick, like help them understand, oh, I enjoy doing this, like I enjoy doing that. And people get things in their head like, oh, I want to do X. I want to be an estimator. It's like, okay, well, let's look at what that is and what the day in, day out. Just because you kind of like spreadsheets a little bit or kind of like numbers, same thing for me, right? Just because I liked numbers didn't mean I wanted to be a CFO. I just didn't know, right? And so that's part of it, is just helping them understand. You think, even with welders, right? We have a lot of welders. You think, oh, I want to create something. Well, do you want to be an artist as a hobby and weld things on your own, or do you really want to weld for 10 hours a day, right? Just because you like working with your hand doesn't mean you're going to love this job. And so that's a big part, just helping people set expectations for what their work is going to look like, because the biggest issue typically is someone expects this and then we're here, or of what their day-to-day is going to be. And when there's that mismatch is when people become disengaged or leave or try to find something else. And even helping them, right? Because if they always think, oh, it's just the job, it's not the work, and it's like, well, no, let's look at the work and make sure you love the work. Because even Marcus Buckingham talks about 20% of your day is doing something you love, then you're going to feel fulfilled. If you're not feeling fulfilled, yeah, maybe it's the environment, but let's look at see what makes you tick and see if you're going to really enjoy this work, right?
You speak so kind of clearly about the fusing of people and product, right? So like I can't help myself. I have a nonprofit background, so I'm very people focused. I couldn't help but like hear that in your journey, but you didn't leave it. Like, yes, you went into kind of this more tactical, metalworks, fabrication, production side, but you were producing in the nonprofit side, you were producing culture, and you brought that on with you. So like, what is it? What is it about your passion for people, or creating effective cultures within organization, that like, I feel like God planted that in you. And so even if you tried to leave it, you can't.
Yeah.
So what is it that you love about that element of the work that you get to do?
Yeah, and I think in manufacturing, you impact a lot of people and communities that maybe don't typically feel the impact of really love, right? And that's kind of the core of like leadership, right? Ultimately, is like love, right? And so getting to make an impact for someone coming into our culture at our company, and they feel the impact of, oh, these people care about me. Like they want me to do well outside of here, not just to produce a product. Like they care about me as a person. When they've worked somewhere else where that's not normal and they feel like a number, right? That's awesome, right? It's changing their day, changing how they feel. And then also we can impact them like in other ways, through, of course, financially, but through benefits, or, we have a trainer that works with people for health and so different things like that. And like, how can we make you the best father, husband, role model, wife, mother that you can be, because we do care about you. That's why we do it. And, my boss, Nick Burrows, talks about it a lot too, but we're not in it just to make money. Like we don't want to just make a ton of money to sit in our pockets and build up a storehouse for no reason, right? We don't want that, right? We do it to create jobs so we can impact people. And yes, if we make more money, we can do more of that. But the money's not the end goal. It's the people, and how do we help them really thrive and be the best version of themselves. But also, in a perfect world, we're 100% employee owned. And so all the money goes back into the employees and builds out retirement plans for the employees. So it's not just going into somebody's pocket. It's going back to them. there's stories of employee ESOPs where someone retires from a pretty entry level job and then they leave a millionaire because they've built up this balance of employee ownership. And so, well, that's wonderful. That's a generational change, right? And that's our long-term goal, is to impact this person, to impact their generation and their family and their environment, right? And so it's just, that's why we do it.
You have an eye to see. I love how you're saying you have an eye to help people get in the right roles. And you just described a role of a welder, and that sounded like an intense job. I mean, sitting, standing, welding. Uh, and so you're getting to know the characteristics. So what makes a good welder? Like, what is the characteristics you look for in those hard workers that are doing this unseen work all the time? What are some of the things that you've seen that makes a good welder?
Yeah, and there's a lot of skills that you can be trained, and there's some that you kind of have to enjoy. But like, really just being able to, like, to your point, like being able to stay at it, being able to stay focused. If I'm welding 100 of these parts for 6 hours and then changing over to the next, like, one, I got to be able to dial it in and do the work and make sure everything's calculated right so that the thickness of the material and what my weld machine is set up as is going to work and not get too much spatter. So there's a lot of skill in that. But there's also just the focus and really just the work ethic, right? Am I going to stay at this? Am I going to try to slack off or do as little as possible? No, that's not going to work. It's going to be noticed. And so really that character piece, but then the skill of just developing that over time, being intentional, just like any trade, right? If I'm working with my hands, making sure everything's dialed in. So just that mechanical ability too, to fit up, grind, clean it up. It is and there's kind of different levels of welders for us. So you kind of entry level, there's kind of a level 2 where you're getting into more complex, but then there's real level 3 fabricators. And so those are, here's a blueprint. What do we need to do to make it happen? And so we do describe our jobs as a welder 1, 2, and 3, because someone just running a bead for 10 hours, that's a valuable contribution, but it's just a little bit of a different skill set than someone who's got to read a print and make something from scratch. And so it's kind of a varied of let me explain what exactly you're going to be doing, because if I bring in a fabricator as a level 1 welder, and they're going to be bored out of their minds. But if I have a fabrication position and we fit them into it, they're going to really feel engaged and fulfilled, right? It's the same way.
That's cool. You're trying to see them holistically, and I mean, you don't always think about that with welders, but you just described a creative innovator almost. They have to take a blueprint and actually figure out how to make that happen, almost like art. That's really cool. Well, talk to us about, I mean, you're using this language that's so people-centric that it really sounds like you're trying to understand your employees and want what's best for them. And I know that you're a person of faith and a believer. How does your faith inform and drive you in that being kind of a purpose in your work?
Yeah, well, we all want to be fulfilled. And I think originally a little bit of my journey, saved at a young age, come along, went to a Christian school, want to help people and kind of find this good mix. But I think maybe all of us go through like a mid-faith crisis where it's like, do I need to go be a missionary? Right? Like, man, does God want me to go be a preacher or a missionary or do something in line of work? And it's like, is this contributing to the kingdom of God? And am I using my skills in the right way? And so there's like this crisis. And for me, it was, whenever I was 25 or so, like, what do I need to do? And should I quit or should I go back to seminary? And so working through that, I kind of came to realize through some mentors at Marvin, and Marvin One is Indoors, a gentleman named Kent Carter, and just working through some of that, like, oh, there is value in work, right? And so providing an opportunity for people to feel fulfilled, right? In Genesis, God gives Adam work, then he gives him a wife, right? And so it's a pretty high up there. So yeah, it says tend that garden, right? Like, you aren't just placed here on earth and says, go lay around, right? It's, no, go tend the garden and cultivate it. And so this is part of your mission here. And so I think we see that in how we're made up as people, is that if we, psychologically, if we have zero stressors, we're going to feel unfulfilled and disengaged and depressed. And you see that, like, if someone doesn't have a purpose or something to use their skills, they're gonna be in a bad place. And so providing someone with an ability to provide for their family, but also use these skills and feel a little bit of stress and a little bit of way to overcome and building that resilience, like that's great. And so my role in that is to get to match those two together so that they're matched up well with their skills and their personality, but also the work, and we're fitting those together well to where they're successful and feel fulfilled and go home and okay, I feel good. Let me work with my family. Like, yeah, I provide for my family. I'm not just work isn't just a negative thing. It's part of who I am, and I'm able to contribute. Right.
You know, it's refreshing to hear managers or supervisors or any type of leadership talk about supporting their staff the way that you're talking about it. Even you referenced, I think his name was Nick, uh, having the same heart. Um, because as an employee, sometimes you may feel that way. You may feel like, hey, I'm here on a kingdom assignment. I'm adding to, but if your supervisor doesn't see it that way, right, they can make that call feel a little, conflicting sometimes. So talk to me a little bit about how you've seen God's love show up for you and through you to be a blessing to other people at your job. Anything come to mind readily?
Yeah, and that's part of it too. One of the things we've seen is like life is full of moments, right? Like people remember the moments. And so there are these significant events, and it's kind of how we benchmark things in our head is this, oh, this happened. I had a child, right? That was that year, right? Or I bought a house, or I got married, right? And so we remember these moments that stick in our head, and that's kind of, we're a collection of these moments. And so part of my role is how do I impact people effectively and show them we care about them. And the best way I can do that is to be there for them in these moments. Right. And so we just had an employee, his wife passed away just this week. How does he know we care about him? We're here for you, man. Do you want me to go meet with the crematorium with you to see if, whatever you need? It's a lot for going on. Like, I understand. What do you need? Just staying in touch and taking up money and just being there for him as best as possible. This is a big moment, right? And it's not all negative, right? Someone has a child. They're going to remember if their supervisor or teammates or HR person showed up and brought them a basket when they had a kid. These are how we can be there, and especially the hard times as well. We had one person who lost their house, burned down in a fire. Well, we could collectively come together, work with them at work and understand that these are specific situations, but we can show love for them that they may not have in their environment at home or through their support system of family. They might not have any of that, and it's just us. And so how do people feel they're cared about? Well, we can show up in those moments. And so it's really about just showing that love. And, one of the top 10 engagement questions is, does my supervisor or someone at work care about me as a person? And I think that's the core of a lot of it for me, for engagement, is people just want to know you care. Yes. The reason people flock to groups and organizations and even gangs, right, is they want to feel part of something where people care about them and they're part of something even bigger. And so how do we create a good environment for that so that people feel like, yes, I'm doing work. Yes, I have stress. Yes, I'm overcoming things at work, but also I'm a part of something bigger and contributing to something and providing something with my skills, right?
Yeah, you don't go to work and leave everything else behind. It all kind of comes with you, and you do as well as a leader. And so, how do you model doing this together? I don't know. I don't know why I was thinking about this as you were talking. I was just thinking about the Good Samaritan and where he came and supported someone who needed help in a tangible way, not with like a word or and then said something, but like showed up and was present. And I just think what you're describing is we show up for our people. And that is an amazing culture to have that obviously has been modeled for you, that you're getting to lean into your employees, where they're not just a cog in the wheel, where they're intimately involved in what it means for Metalworking Solutions to be successful. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and an additional part to that too, in my role specifically, not just as an organization, is is I think HR sometimes gets a bad rap of a policy driven, structured by the book. I'm just an enforcer of rules, right? But I think HR done well is an understanding of people and meeting them where they're at. Went to a conference, and Ann Rhodes talked a little bit about whenever she interviews an HR person, she says, "Tell me about a time when you broke a policy for a person," right? Because there are such specific circumstances to every situation. And so, yes, it'd be great to slap a blanket policy on everything, but you're not going to be able to do that. And you really wouldn't want to do that because this employee's wife passing away this week is a very specific circumstance where what do we need to do to be there for him? And yeah, it's great if we can replicate that in the future, but I don't need to ignore this individual situation right here. Right? I need to care about this person right now. What is the right thing to do in this situation, right? So that's a little bit of a piece of it.
Can you, I want to flip that though. You do have to write policies. That is part of it. And as a believer, what does it mean to write policies in a way that helps your company culture and not makes the rules and that you're having to enforce, but actually bring about that flourishing you're looking for?
Yeah, it's a fine line. And honestly, you kind of write these policies with a little bit of flexibility because of that, and that each situation is a little different. But to your point, there does need to be structure, and structure is good, right? And so even though people, I believe our employees are inherently good and trying to do the right thing, people will push against boundaries. And so it's up to us to clarify those boundaries. And so like literally 90% of my job is probably setting expectations and creating expectations of what's okay and what's not okay. Because once you do that, people will generally do a great job and live within those boundaries. And then when they step outside of it and you reprimand them and say, "Hey, we talked about this, can't do that," they're like, "Oh, you're right. I get it. I'm sorry." 99% of reprimands or verbal discipline or anything like that get cleared up immediately. Like, people want to do well. It's just about making sure we're on the same page on those expectations. And here's the line. If you cross it, we're going to talk about it. You know that we're on the same page.
Ian, you are by far one of the chillest HR managers I've ever met, and that's a good thing. It's an amazing thing. But what are you rooted in? Because there has to be some level of kind of intrinsic motivation that allows you to show up every day to your work with this posture, this heart posture. So what motivates you?
Well, I think it is a mixture of faith and family and being able to use those skills as well for myself. And also a little bit of selfishness, of competitiveness, I think, oddly enough. Like, I want to win. Like, I want to do well. I want the culture to be the best culture in the world. I want Metalworking Solutions to have the best company in the world, right? And so a mixture of those things where, like, yes, I'm getting to fill my God-given talents and use them effectively at work. I'm getting to provide for my family and my wife if she decides she doesn't want to work or she wants to take a break or whatever, great. You be there for our kid and just creating those opportunities. Maybe she won't. We'll see. I have a feeling she will after she's met this kid. But and then also, like, I want to do well. I want, for my boss, like, hey, I want to do a good job, set expectations, and I want to exceed those and just do a good job. And I do have a competitive nature. I've played sports, all that good stuff. Like, I want to win. I want the company to win. I want our teams to win. And so that's a big motivation for me as well. There's a verse in Colossians that talks about doing all things as if for the Lord, right? And so that's kind of in the background. In a perfect Ian would be completely intrinsically motivated, but in reality, I do have, I have the extrinsic. I want to proof that I'm doing a good job externally and all those things as well. So,
what is something about being an HR director that you wish people knew? What's something that you have to deal with regularly, or something that's you have to think about a lot, or drives you in your work that maybe people aren't aware of that you want them to know about?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest is probably kind of what we've talked about, is that every situation's different, and that a good HR department and organization understands that. But I'd say from a structural, I think the biggest thing I want people to know about manufacturing is that manufacturing isn't just this thing you do if you can't do anything else, right? I think a lot of kids come out of school, and it's getting better now. There's a lot of efforts in the right direction, but whenever I was coming out of school, like, you didn't want to go work in a factory, right? There's never even considered, even HR and the disciplines around that weren't even an option. You only hear major careers like lawyer, doctor, all of those things, and you just don't really know what your options are if I've got this set of skills. And so the biggest thing I hope people understand is you don't need to make $1 million to feel fulfilled, right? The money's not going to do it. Right? If I have a job I hate, I make $1 million a year, like, I'm going to feel unfulfilled, right? And so it's up to me and us as a society to help younger people understand what does make them feel that way, what fills the itch, and how it helps them feel fulfilled and using their skills. And because each person's unique and different, and so if it is being creative and innovative and you want to be a full fabricator, well, let's get you up to speed to do that. But if you like standing in front of a brake and bending and not setting it up and just doing the thing over and over again really, really well, great. There's a big need for that. And so helping people understand that is a great career path where you can make good money and provide for your family and use those skills is kind of what I wish more people knew.
And we need them.
Yeah.
And so, thank you for fostering a culture. I keep just thinking about how oftentimes Scripture talks about, like, the Lord knows how many hairs are on our head. He intimately knows us. And what I hear you talk about is you're not knowing how many hairs on your employee's head, but you're really trying to understand them, to set them up for success and to serve them, not for how you want them to be, but where they're at right now. And that just feels like such a gospel truth, that you're meeting, that you're not waiting for them to get to a certain place. You're coming and meeting them where they're at, as what we really believe. That's what the gospel is that God came and met us where we were at. And so what a cool way to kind of show that and model that through the work you do. Yeah. Well, thank you, Ian, so much for making time to be with us today on the Weekday Saints Podcast.
Absolutely. I loved it and enjoyed getting to meet y'all.
Thanks, man.
Wow, Ian Cochran. I didn't know anything about this company, actually. I have a friend that's in fabrication, so I do understand the kind of the grueling work of manufacturing. But to hear his heart for people, talking about the right people in the right role, and if they're not in the right role, like, they're willing to work with them. Let's see why you feel this isn't your fit, and maybe we can train you up.
I mean, when you think about a factory, it's like normally it's like just cogs. You just put bodies in the seats to get the jobs done. And Ian really gave us a vision for what it would look like to care holistically for those employees, and honestly, how it can help the company flourish. And it's a cyclical thing that when the company is doing well, it's usually because the employees are flourishing and they're in the right roles, and that extra time of seeing them in that way is bringing dividends to the company.
Listen, people first, I don't care what anyone says, people first leadership will always be the best indicator of a healthy work environment. When you have leadership that's putting the people first, and not just the positions that the people fill, but the people themselves, to hear how they show up for their coworkers who just had a baby, or the coworkers who home burned down. For your employers to show up as community, if that's not a biblical principle, right? Yes, we work together. Yes, we are tasked to do these duties, but we're in community every day, maybe from 9 to 5.
I mean, and Ian does these things because that's who God made him to be. He does it because his faith is so important to him, that he sees others as made in the image of God. And I mean, it's not something that he just does when he's at his job, but it sounds like, even as we were talking, the way he wants to treat his family and the way he wants to treat his friends. And, he had that midlife faith crisis of maybe going on the mission field. Well, Ian, you're already on the mission field, my brother. I mean, that was really cool to hear what he's doing at Metalworking Solutions. And I'm so thankful he was on our show today.
This was an amazing episode that we got to share and hear the heart of Ian Cochran. And we're so grateful that you were able to join us. Tune in for the next episode of Weekday Saints Podcast, where you'll be blessed with our next guest.
Peace.